Friends.
You're one of the most charming guys we've come across.
My good friend Bob LAZAR thinks I'm nuts. So.
Does he really?
Yeah. He told us at the birthday party.
And he works on UFOs. So
as a matter of fact, if you'll reach behind you, I would like to read his birthday present to me. It's that cup that says JL.
Right.
Just hand it over here. Okay, now Bob LAZAR had this made for me, and this is my birthday present. Basically, what this is
what does it say?
Periodic table of elements, and the periodic table of 116 is JL, and it says it's a human solid, and the atomic mass is 256.89, and it has all the stuff there, and then it says element John Lear, occurrence found primarily in Nevada. Physical properties. JL is a rare and unstable element. It is best known for its remarkable ability to resist common sense and facts.
Oh, jeez.
Applied liberally, JL has been known to improve the quality of lawns. It is also known to absorb great quantities of expensive substances. It is one of the most powerful money-reducing agents known to man. Prolonged exposure to this element can cause severe physical, mental, and financial damage.
That's great. Okay, and you've told us off camera that Bob LAZAR has gone back in working for the government.
Yeah, he works back at Los Alamos National Laboratories.
What's he working on?
I have no idea. One of the things he told us is when he went back to work, they had a short chat with him, and before they gave him his clearance, they said, "Now, Bob, you're not going to cause us any more problems, are you?" And he said no.
Well, they basically threatened him to get him to come back in, isn't that right? I mean, he was having all kinds of problems right before that.
I didn't hear that part.
Okay. But he's been inside for about 4 years.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And you're saying that it's possible he might give interviews?
Yeah, he did the Travel Channel a couple of years ago, and just the other day did somebody else, you know, but it would be best that you did not mention my name. Just call him up out of the blue.
Okay,
you know.
but he's your friend, right?
Yeah, he's a good friend. He came to my birthday party, and it was really great. You know, as I've told you, I used to have 2 wicker chairs here. In 1987, I started talking about UFOs. I gave a lecture at the Spring Valley Library. Well, it created such a ruckus here in Las Vegas. People were calling. There were people wanting to interview me. I mean, it just exploded. And, of course, it disrupted my family here because people were calling. Marilee eventually had my phone shut off. She took all my UFO files. I mean, it was bad. Gene and I are talking about UFOs, and Bob was rolling his eyes. He said, "You guys are nuts. This could not be true. I worked at Los Alamos. I had a Q clearance. If it had been true, I would have known about it. I did enough snooping around there." So he didn't want to hear about any of this stuff. So anyway, that was like in June of '88. So over the next 4 or 5 months, Gene and I and Bob exchanged information. And Bob, you know, there was 3 or 4 things that pushed him over of this is totally ridiculous, that it might be true. And one of them was, in those days we knew about a secret facility at Los Alamos called YY-2, and my information was that it was where they held the aliens there. And then there was something else. But anyway, Bob found out, yeah, there was YY-2, and yeah, it was way more classified than he could end. And there was like 3 or 4 things. And anyway, in November, that was when Bob decided that, well, you know, I think I'll see if I can get a job up at Area 51. So he called Dr. Teller, who he knew from Los Alamos, and I think I was there when Bob talked to him, and Teller said, do you want to work out here at Lawrence Livermore with me or there in Nevada? And Bob said, I want to work at Groom Lake. And so Teller says, okay, well, let me get back with you. So then Bob had 3 interviews down at EG&G, and he would come up here after each interview. And I remember after the second interview, the first question was, do you know John Lear? And what do you think of John Lear? And Bob said, yeah, I know him, and I think he sticks his nose into places where it doesn't belong. And Bob told me what I didn't tell them was, I also like to stick my nose into places where it doesn't belong. So he got his third interview, and he told us, you know, he aced him because they talked about really technical stuff, and he just laid it out, and he said, I did a good job. Anyway, the next thing I know is December 6th of 1988, Bob sits down, and he says, I saw a disc today. And I'm writing out checks there, you know, and I'm not paying attention. I said, what? He says, I saw a disc today. And a disc? Theirs or ours? And he said, theirs. I said, you went to Groom Lake? And he said, yeah. And I said, what are you doing here? I said, obviously they're going to follow you. Why don't you just, you know, work there for a while and then come and tell us what happened? He says, because I have seen you take so much crap over the past 6 months about this. I'm telling you, it's real. I saw it. I touched it, you know. And then we spent about 2 hours talking about stuff. And it was just totally shocking. And
okay, and then, but tell us that story. I mean, we got it on the other tape, but it's just so much fun, where he sits down and says, John, you'll never know what it's like.
That was January. And he'd been up there 2 or 3 times, or 4 or 5 now, I don't know how many. And I remember January, because it was bitter cold, and I had a short sleeve shirt on like this, and Bob comes in and sits there, and you know, he's just on. He's lit. And he wants to talk about something, and we already knew we shouldn't talk in here. So we went out by the pool, and Marilee's coming this way, and, you know, she said, what are you two doing? You know, we're going out, you know, to talk, you know, and she's suspicious of anything anyway, so she doesn't believe that for a second, but she lets us go. So we went out in that little back place by the stable, and I'm looking at him and said, what? He said, John, you will never know what it's like to see your first alien. I said, you saw one? He said, yeah. I said, it couldn't have been a doll, it couldn't have been, no, it was one. And, you know, these days you ask him that question, he says, well, I don't know, could have been a doll, they were doing all these weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But that night, that's exactly what he said.
Okay.
And I said, how did it happen? He says, well, I was walking down the corridor, he said, I got a guard on each side, and he said, I walked by this door, and there's like a 12-inch window pane, and it has wires through it, and I looked through it, and there's 2 guys, in lab coats facing me, and an alien standing up talking to them. Now, did I show you that picture?
No, I don't think so.
Because he drew it for me.
Oh, really?
Do you want me to get up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
These are a lot of stuff I kept from Bob. For instance, here's how security clearance works. The lowest clearance you can get is top secret. And then above that, there's 28 levels of top secret crypto. And then above that, there's 10 levels. Now, these aren't the real names, except the top one is Majestic. Now, each one of these are compartmentalized, so that you may have top secret crypto 25, but you don't get to know all that information. All you get to know is what you're cleared for. In other words, when you get top secret crypto 25, somebody doesn't come and tell you, this is all the stuff that the guys at top secret 25 get to know. It's compartmentalized. So we had this to show that the President of the United States is like top secret crypto 17. He doesn't need to know very much. He's a figurehead. He's told what to do. And
right.
So he doesn't really need to know all this. The last president, my understanding, the last president that was given any kind of a briefing was President Nixon. Ford knew a little bit. Reagan knew a little bit. Of course, Bush knew something because he was, you know, director of the CIA. That doesn't mean they tell the director of the CIA anything. He's an appointed office, and they hate appointees. So he knew that from other reasons. But anyway, this is how that chart worked. And these are the when Bob decided not to go back to work for the government. We took him into got three regressive hypnosis sessions, and they were Lane Keck. And Lane was supposed to be at my birthday party, and I don't remember why he didn't come. Or maybe he did come. I think he did come. We'll see on that DVD. But he did the regressions for Bob. And what we tried, it was extremely interesting. The first one we didn't get because the tape recorder broke. And Gene Huff has those on notes. But the second one, I have the second one, and that's where we tried to pull the information out of. And I'll tell you what here, later if you want, I have a transcript of the second one, and I'll let you read it because it's extremely interesting.
That'd be great.
This is when Bob was telling me how you went forward and backward in time. And
okay, I was going to ask you that. So Bob worked on time travel, didn't he?
He didn't work on it. He was briefed on it. See, when he went up there...
He knew Teller. He must have... And he worked at Los Alamos. I mean,
he only knew Teller because he met him that day in front of Los Alamos when Teller was giving the speech, and Bob was on the cover of the Los Alamos Times with his jet car, and he walked up to Dr. Teller and said, "That's who I'm the guy you're reading about." And Dr. said, "Oh, really neat." And they had a little chat. But that's the only place he knew him from. He didn't work with him, but he did work at Los Alamos, and he did listen to Teller talk. So Bob, when he went up to S4, he said, they asked, you have to choose what you want to do. You can't have a little bit of it all. You have to choose, do you want to be, work on this or that? And Bob wanted to work on reverse engineering the propulsion. That was his job. But he got briefed on all this, and what he's showing me here is how you go forward in time, which is just exerting a strong gravitational pull, and how you go aft. And he started drawing it like that, and then he put his scribblings, I don't know how it works, So anyway, these were the Bob LAZAR 1987. He was drawing me the different shapes of vehicles that were at S4. And this one, what he's doing here is he's showing me one had been hit by a projectile. And when I first, let me see here. When I first started showing Bob the pictures of the moon and showing him stuff that was on there, I was saying, look at this, vapor and this and that, and he kind of looked at me real skeptical, and then he said, John, I walked out the door, and then walking out of the door of his home, he says, John, if any of this stuff is true, I'm going to have to kill myself. And so I said, why don't I get that on paper, Bob? So I had him sign this thing that says, I, Bob LAZAR, promise to kill myself if any of John's moon stuff is true. Signed, Bob LAZAR, August 23rd, 1996. Well, what happened is, when I finally got somebody, when I ordered that photograph from NASA, they sent me the negative. It was a 16 by 20 negative.
Right.
And it took me, 5 or 6 years before the technology got even to Las Vegas to make a positive that size negative. So when I got it, I took it over to Bob's house, and there's a little one right here. This is the first I got, and I took it over to Bob, and he scanned it. And those are the scans went on ATS. And so up here, I'll let you do a close-up later, there's obviously what looks like a parking garage. So Bob looks at it and looks at it and looks at it. He says, yeah. He says, I got to admit, that is not natural. That is something. And so I said, Bob, we've been friends for a long time, and I know you're a man of your honor. And you have agreed that if any of my moon stuff was true, that you would kill yourself. And he says, well, is there any way I can get out of it? And I said, yeah. As a matter of fact, why don't you just sign this statement here? And this is August 5th, 1998. This is 2 years later. It says, I, Bob LAZAR, in return for not having to honor my commitment to kill myself, if any of John's moon stuff was true, do freely admit that the object in the crate of Copernicus on the moon, saved as apple crate, is a box which I don't know what is doing there. Signed, Bob LAZAR. Now, that's the best I could get him to do.
Okay.
But that